Hello and welcome to our just chatting session. It is Sunday, already the 3rd of January. Jesus, I gotta go back to work tomorrow. Vacation's over. Um, yeah, we do this every once in a while, and the purpose of this is to do a little work in Photoshop, some instructional work. Hopefully, you get something out of this. Um, we are today going to get really Bob Ross's, Bob Ross-ish. We are going to do some digital coloring. We're going to learn how to color and set up a page in a comic book for coloring. Um, I've done this before in the past professionally to some degree, and I learned from a really good professional. So I figured what better way to pass the next hour than to do this. I wouldn't call myself an aficionado, but I know a few things. There you go. I don't call myself an aficionado either. I do know things here and there. I'm not an expert on cars and stuff like that. I own a car. That's where I get my knowledge from. So, but yeah, so we're going to do a little comic book coloring here today. Photoshop. We're going to do this, and then we're going to start playing Crimson Skies after. Hope you have a little bit of interest in this. This comic book page, it's Fantastic Four 337, the cover. I believe it's from 86. Okay, I actually own this comic book. So you color, but do you ink too? I've never inked professionally. I have colored professionally. Inking's a little bit out of my league. Never been asked to ink. Coloring, we did. At my first job at the design studio, we did digital coloring. We basically did a trading card set for Conan that they took all the black and white Conan comics and we colorized them for the card set. And it looked nice, but it was a little odd because the art style was made purposely for black and white art, so it was kind of black heavy, a lot of shadows, kind of like you see here. And it didn't translate as well to digital coloring. I would have done it more like in a watercolor style, but unfortunately, that's what the company wanted us to do. They wanted to digitally color it, so we did it. I mean, they came out looking nice. It just looked odd for that Conan art style. Coloring is a skill set of its own. Yes, it is, and I'm glad I learned it. This is the page that we're gonna start coloring, and I'm gonna do this every week until it's done, I guess. This is by Walt Simonson. He's the artist. I don't know. He probably inked it himself. It looks like he inked it himself. Walt Simonson's one of my favorite artists of all time, if not my absolute favorite artist. Obviously, he comes from the Jack Kirby school of designing and drawing comics. And this is the cover that he did back in 86 for Fantastic Four 337. This is the colored version. This is what it looked like when it was colored. You could see here, you know, you got the UPC code that goes here, so they boxed this out. And then I realized that they recolored it. I mean, I should have known. It's been 31 years. Hey, Caffeine Terry, how are you? Happy New Year. Welcome. Balsh. No, 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 no. No what, Balsh? You need to choose your own colors. No, we're choosing our own colors. I'm going to color this my way because I don't like the way this guy colored it. He did a sloppy job. And we're going to do my own rendition of this coloring job. I did not realize that they recolored this. I should have known well. It's been 31 years since this comic book came out. So they recolored it for a collection, and this is the digital version of the colors, which looks so much better. And as you could see at the bottom of the sled, whatever they're writing, here, the colorist messed up and didn't cut out to the background in these areas right here. So they fixed it in this version. It's funny. So this version actually looks pretty good, but I don't like the color choices completely. So we're going to change it up a little. There you go. Happy New Year. I'm okay. Thanks. Hope you're well. I'm doing good, Caffeine Terry. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good eye. Yeah. Um, I never noticed that. And then I guess when they recolored it, I guess Walt Simonson was like, "Yeah, no, that was supposed to be a cutout, and they didn't cut it out right." Also, this looks like they just mailed it in here. So, oh, first thing you got to do when you're coloring a comic is to, and this is the actual page. I got it off the internet. I was gonna use some, and I'll show it to you guys later. I have tons of pages, comic book pages. I have my own comic book page collection from artists that I bought pages off of them. Um, I'll we'll take a look at them later. Mail order comic work seems like something they'd actually do. Well, back in the early, well, late 90s, I guess. That's when they started doing the digital coloring. Basically, you had companies that were just, they would just hire people at probably like $15 an hour, right? And they give you a page and they'd be like, all right, this is the page you got to color today. So you worked on it until you were finished, and then you emailed it back to them, or you mailed it to them, back to the company, and then with the final page on file that's colored, and that's what they would use to make the comic. When this was made in 86, this was probably colored with markers, I'm thinking. That's probably how they did it. Maybe colored pencils. That's the old school way of doing it, and it doesn't look bad. It's just not as nice as this. And this has that digital feel to it. So hopefully we can avoid it looking too digital. So the first thing you got to do creating comics like this might not be a great page to use because I'm looking in on it. Want to adjust the contrast a little. Click on auto. It'll come pretty close to what we want it to be, but we still got to adjust it a little. It's too dark now. Bring up the brightness of that. All right. Use digital to look less digital, man. Photoshop blows me away. Yeah, there's so much that could be done. Adult coloring books are a thing now, so I figured let's do a digital page. Let's color it up. So basically what we want to do here is we want to select all the blacks, all the inks, so we can leave the rest of the page behind. We're going to select that, and then what we're going to do, go to select, do color range, grow, what do I want to do? Select color is what I want to do. A color range. Select similar color. That didn't select much. We're going to have to go even deeper with the contrast. There we go. That looks better. Let's see if we can do select color range. One thing that might help is to do black and white, convert it completely to black and white. Yeah, that helps it. Still not picking it all up. There we go. Looks like we got everything. This, just to be sure. Oh, that's too much. There you go. All right, we're gonna lose some detail, especially here since they were too light on the lines, but that's fine. Okay. Well, the idea is to separate the black lines from the background. Might I make a suggestion for the streamer? Sure. Why is it never black and white? Well, one of the reasons why it's not black and white, and we could also change this to grayscale for a moment, because it's a scan of the actual page, so. Change the game to art instead of just chatting. Oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that. I prefer just chatting, only because people say art, and they're like, oh, art. No, I'm not an artist. We could change it to that. Good suggestion. There you go. Art. All right, looks like we have all the lines in place. So let's make our black. Actually, pick black as our color. You draw stuff and recolor stuff? How are you not an artist? I'm not an artist because it doesn't really pay, truthfully. I could have been a comic book artist. I chose not to. I became a graphic designer instead, and it's probably the best thing I did. It's probably too dark, isn't it? See what it looks like. It's very hard to break into the comic book field. Nearly impossible. You really got to know people, and you really got to be a good artist. In order to be a comic book artist, you need to be fast, among everything else. All right. Not bad. It's a little dark. What did the original look like? That's a little dark. Fine. Yeah, that's good enough. So there we have our colors. As you see, your top layer will be black. Will be your background layer. This is the original page. We'll just keep it there in case we need it. Any art job is hard to get into as a profession, but you do it because you love it, not for the money. Exactly. Need to just show up for most trade jobs, sadly. Yeah, for comic book stuff, I know how to draw. I am an artist. Do I consider myself an artist? I consider myself a commercial artist because I'm a designer. I used to draw all the time, and I never went to. It's something like my parents were like, "No, you're gonna be a starving artist," kind of deal. And my true passion was to do video games. Like I wanted to become a programmer for the sake of working on video games, and get rid of all this. We don't need all this. I really, really wanted to do that. So I went into programming, and I just never found a love for programming. So I became a graphic designer, and Fast forward 14 years later, I went to school for web development, so I did find that love for programming. Where am I today? Probably somewhere in between a graphic designer and a web developer. So I have the skills, I could use both of them, but it's time for me to decide to go one route or the other and stick to it. That's the only way I'm going to go advance my career at this point. Because truthfully, I'm not doing either at my current job. And, you know, while it's a paycheck, it really sucks. So once COVID's over, I like to get the heck out of there. I never had any interest in programming. Honestly, I didn't even have any concept of it until about 3 years ago. Programming is weird. It's like you either love it or you don't. If I knew that if I was going to do something like video gaming, um, like create video games, I would need to learn how to program. I wanted to be more of a 3D modeler, but in 1994, when I was going to school, 1993, there were no programs that offered video game making or like 3D modeling. So I didn't pursue it for that reason. Like basically everybody who made video games up to that point dropped out of school, taught themselves programming, and that's how they made video games. And it was like that's not going to go well, especially with my parents. And I don't think these blacks are a little too deep, a little too dark. Let's lighten them. Then we'll finally get into coloring. We'll at least do the background on today's stream. Looks similar. I'm selecting it on the wrong layer. That was thought by a really good colorist at my job. He colored comics for a living as well. And he was really good. And what really fascinated me is that he was colorblind and he overcame his color blindness to become a colorist. It was like, wow, man, that's like some story. So be too dark again. Try this. Yeah, it's too dark. Might be even darker, right? Yeah, it's darker. All right, let's go with what we have here. It'll work. Actually, it's not as dark. Use this. It's cleaner. Okay. So you have your white background. Basically, all the colors go in between these two layers. Usually you set up the black as an alpha layer, but either way, it doesn't matter. An alpha layer will be set up here and it will work as a channel and you could just turn it on and off, but same thing works with it being here. Doesn't really matter. And actually what I'd like to do, see how he kind of drew through the box? I want to capture that. Yeah, it was more, hey, you're good with programming and the hope you can make it more than just game code. Yeah, that was the thing. It's kind of like I thought I was gonna end up like maybe being the guy who like, you know, was coding, you know, like software, not video games from what I was learning. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. I want to do something visual. So I switched to art. Get this completed here. I just want to go through this. Probably zoom in more to do this, but whatever. was looking at pages to color, and I was looking more for Walt Simonson stuff because I really like his art as a comic book artist, and came across some really cool stuff that, I'm like, I haven't done this in years, so let's hold off on that. But I'll show you some of the other pages. I'll show you some. I have full pages that I colored. They got to be on a disc somewhere, a CD. Need to find them. What I did find on here was like a half-started page. That was about it. I'm like, why is it not on my computer? There we go. We draw that through. Then eventually I'll take out the box. I'll probably do that now. Eraser. Oh, that's why. I'll fix that up later. Now the slate comes through there. My only digital art skills involve coloring things in MS Paint or making couple simple vector images for props in Inkscape. Hey, that's still cool. I mean, I know a guy, a good friend of mine. All he does is like, well, he used to. I don't know if he still does it. He does memes, creates memes, and he creates them, I think, in MS Paint, and he does a really good job with them. Like he'll take artwork and manipulate it to like a cereal box, let's say, and manipulate it into something else, and take like parts of pictures and put them together, and they're pretty funny. So this is already just mind-boggling to me. I feel like I don't have the mental capacity to understand it. Um, there's a learning curve to it. Um, but we're just basically setting up the page, and now that it's set, we can actually start coloring it. So let's actually do that. You do need to know a little bit of Photoshop to do this. There's other programs you could do it in. You could probably just do this in Photopea. If you go to photopea.com, I believe, that's basically Photoshop on the web. So if you wanted to like try this out, follow it yourself, you could do that there. Enjoying just watching the process? Well, I'm glad you are. I didn't know. Obviously, everybody's at the video games. I didn't know who was going to be into art, but I'm glad people are. Okay, so first things first, let's start by coloring the sled, or actually the background. We'll do the background first. This part with the box, I'll leave it. I'll color through it, and then I'll make up the line work for that. It's still a little dark, but okay. So you could do one of two things in order to select where you want to color. You could use the polygon lasso tool, or you could go even stricter and use the pen tool. Basically, what we're going to do is select certain areas. I'm going to use the pen tool this time around because it's going to be a little harder to go around each character. More games! Soon, soon. Soon, Bass. Come for the game, stay for the streamer. Be right back at the door even. Oh, someone's at the door. No problem. No problem. Hey, you got to see some Chevy cars, some classics. So it's not a bad stream after all. Okay, so what we're going to do is with the pen tool, you're just going to basically trace it within the black lines. Don't want to go out of it. And let me tell you who's on this thing. This is Thor, obviously Iron Man, Sue Richards, the Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, Johnny Storm. This is actually Ben Grimm, the Thing. I think at this point in the comic book, he wasn't mutated into the Thing. And this is the Miss Marvel character. She turned into a Thing, so they started calling her the She-Thing. Which, just all kinds of political incorrectness right there. But I think the entire storyline here was that they were going through time and space to kind of stop some evil enemy. And every episode or issue, they ended up in a different timeline or different part of outer space. I haven't read these books in years, so my memory's failing. But you could see that the artwork's getting jaggy as I go in, but this is already at 300%, so that's why. There's a way to smooth it out a little, but I don't think it's going to matter. If you go to 100%, it's good enough. You don't see the jaggies. If I had the original page, actually, I'd probably be able to do a better job. I would have scanned it at a higher resolution. So I just want to get around Thor's cape and his hat and his wings here. I don't even have to do a perfect job as long as we get around them. This is part 1. This is how to set up your blacks on a page. Part 2, we'll just continue from here next week, and we'll just keep coloring. Hard to come up with a lesson every week, but digital coloring is something that I always found fun, and it's Photoshop work, so why not, I say. Let's go down this route. Little old lady brought a fake Christmas tree I had up for sale. Oh, cool. Bought it. Nice. Cool. Yeah, we usually go with fake Christmas trees here. It's too hot in this. We live in an apartment and it's too hot in here, so the tree would never last until Christmas if we actually had a real one. Always go with fake. Once we're out of here, though, we'll always get a real tree, I hope. My wife wants, so. Probably should save this too. I haven't saved it yet. Which. Save it right there. Digital coloring sounded like a cop-out to me. Now it's like, hey, this is very involved. Not easy. It's not easy. When I was looking for something to color, I came across some really nice digital coloring work that was done out there. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go with the classic page because the new guys will probably rip me a new one if I badly color their pages. Not that they're ever going to see it here on Twitch. You never know who's on Twitch. Yeah, so this is basically called pathing. You're basically tracing out the area that... Why did this move? Save it as path 1 for now. You're basically isolating the characters from the background so that you can color the background. Not an expert at this, but I know enough where I can actually do it. I said the only thing I ever colored were a couple of pages for trading cards. Then I used to do this, for practice too. So I have pages that I did color, and I don't know where most of them are. They're not on the computer. They're probably on a disk because I did most of this at work. Saved everything from work. I had to. Otherwise, I'd have nothing to show for my hard work. Who knows who is lurking in the shadows? You never know, Tikaru. I don't know. I have fun messing with colors. Why the hell are Fantastic Four in red suits? Why is this thing purple? Yeah. Well, like you said, we make this our own. What is this called again? I don't have Photoshop. Maybe Krita will have a select tool like that. This is the pathing tool. You could find it in GIMP. GIMP is like freeware version of Photoshop that was out for Linux, and they could, they brought it to Mac. They brought it to basically they also brought it to Linux, Mac, and Windows so that you could use it as a free version, but it sucks. That's called GIMP. But if you go to Photopea or photopea.com, you'll get an exact replication of Photoshop to use for free. It works pretty well too. I get a little sloppy and quick here. I don't need to be exact. And honestly, I probably could have spent more time doing the black lines and making sure they're more precise to what was drawn, but it's Twitch and time goes quickly. Let's connect this here. This is where we started. Okay, so as you can see, we outlined all this. This is what it's going to look like in about a second. So they look like marching ants. What was it? Shift G? Nope. That's grouping. Not what I wanted. There you go. If I were to pick a color to throw on there, let's say I use... I'm going to do it different than what the original artist used. Let's say we use a light red. You're going to start to see the color back there. So let me add this to a swatch. Create my swatches. Share with others. No, I don't want to share with others. That is your most useless feature, Photoshop. Don't work well with others. The way you do it is a bit similar to how I draw my vector stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. When you path, it's similar to drawing vectors. The only thing is you're not drawing a shape, you're outlining. Pathing tool. I will look for it. GIMP is okay, but Krita is exceptional freeware. I'm gonna have to look into Krita. You can make a living just by learning this tool, because this is how you're gonna outline everything to retouch it. Even if you're retouching photos, this is where you start. I mean, there's more modern tools that people use now for this, but yes, I go with what I know, and this is what I know. This tool. And again, I had a boss who in 2000 was using Photoshop like 1 from the 80s because that's how he knew how to work. It was his, he knew all the tips and tricks for that. So why bother with something new? This circle area, we're going to turn into something else. So I'm just going to ignore it for now. That's going to be a different color. Why didn't that connect? There we go. And this box I'm not going to worry about. We're going to remove it. I'll probably do that off stream if I can. Or path in the background. Oops. Now we're filling that in. Not much, but at least we have a background there. Hey, Camilio, how's it going? I'm hesitant to share my finished product sometimes. I used to be that way too, but not anymore. Actually, doing this on stream takes me away from that. It's more like when you're doing work on stream, when I'm watching you do artwork and carvings and all that stuff and just being resourceful, you know, you're like, you know, I see you doing that, and then I'm like, well, why ain't I online teaching people some Photoshop and doing some stuff like this? Like, this is fun for me. So, this is my artwork. And while I usually don't share my artwork, this takes me out of my shell and allows me to produce the artwork in front of everybody else. You know what I mean? Let's clean that up. Okay. Time are we at? 2:30? No, I didn't draw the actual comic. The comic book is drawn by my favorite comic artist. The page actually is drawn by Walt Simonson, one of the better artists. He did Fantastic Four, he did some Batman, he did Thor. Thor was his big thing. So there you have it. This looks like it is spot between She Thing's body and her arm. That's where the background's going to peek through. We'll put that there. And another spot right here. Do that. It's been one hell of a shitty year, but yeah, things finally looking up. Yeah, 2021 won't be perfect. It's not going to solve everything that it's 21, but it's going to be a better year. I'm certain of that. By better, I mean less people will suffer, hopefully. In many ways. 2020 just sucked ass. Yeah. Oh, what happened? There we go. I think I must have hid the layer. Save it. Glad to see you working on it. It's fun to see people do what they enjoy. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing this for a living and just coloring stuff, but it's tough work. You got to be really fast because when the artist and the inker finish with it, it's up to you to do it. And you might have like 10 days to do a whole 20-page comic book. And if that's the case, it's like I knew people who had to basically take days off from work because they were freelancing as a colorist and they didn't have the time to actually finish the artwork that they were coloring. So they took a sick day, got paid by work, finished the coloring, basically got paid again. So still know people who work in the industry, and they're cool people, but it's very tough to break into this industry now, and I'm sure it's even tougher with the pandemic going on. Because comic books are just like, they're like whatever nowadays. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I actually have no hope of 2021 being that great, but it cannot be worse than 2020. For me particularly, well, it can always be worse, but let's not think of that. I think 2020 will be not much different in the first couple of months than last year, but things will start to change for the better. And I think we will be given the opportunity to change certain things for ourselves. I don't think we're going to be like stuck indoors the entire year. I hope not. Even though pandemic's getting worse and worse right now. I don't think we're going to do another quarantine here in New York City, at least, but I mean, my goal once this pandemic is over to get my career back on track finally, and whether I go back to designing full time as an art director or continue down my career path as a web developer, that's my goal for this year. You don't like what you're doing in your day job, what's the point of having a day job? That's the way I see it. Why I stream. It's stress release. Yeah, Keter has a freehand path tool. I will have to start learning how to use it. There you go. I could have made a living off of just the path tool alone. Because retouching, it's important for retouching, selecting areas, creating artwork, like fixing things like I did the sled down there. That's what you would use to restore pictures. You know, it's a very useful tool. Okay. So we're taking a different approach here than the original colored page, which had the blue background. So I'm doing red here. And probably gonna do, thinking like, maybe we do the yellow highlights. We see. The reason why he chose blue back here is because none of their outfits are blue. I'm using the pinkish magenta, and it's gonna clash with his color, Iron Man's color, but we could always change it. I think this is showing the background here. I'm not sure. Yeah, this is the background, so get that in there. I'm just trying to be a realist about this year. I'm like, you know, don't want to get my hopes up. I have friends who think like they're going to get the vaccine, and next thing you know, they'll be at a Iron Maiden concert, which, you know, that's all good and everything, but that's not how it works. I used to use a digital pen all the time. Pathing is a lot easier with the pen. I had a Wacom tablet and pen, but they no longer worked past Windows 7. So I went back to using a mouse here. You could use either or. It's a little easier to do the pathing with the pen. I'll admit that, because you can kind of just draw basically what you're tracing. But, you know, either way, it still works great with the mouse. Trying to be realistic, but I cannot see things changing drastically until at least 6 months. Yeah, I agree with you there. At least closer to 12 months. That's what I say 2021 will suck. Let's try to enjoy it, make it better. I'm with you on that. Silver blue Iron Man? Um, um, yeah, you know, we got to make it better for ourselves. And you got to realize too, like, you know, it's out of our control, 2021. So there's only so much we could do to control it, you know, and the pandemic itself. So yeah. Yeah, I was thinking we could always do the silver Iron Mans, but he was silver and red. Here he's gold and red. So the original Iron Man was just soul silver, but we'll figure it out. I can even change the background color if need be. Miss this patch right here. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. All right, so our background's starting to get there. This is not the worst world we have lived in. We live in pretty chill epoch, all things considered. Yeah, they called the sled Rosebud too. I think it's a reference, obviously, to Citizen Kane, but I don't I don't think I read that part of the comic book, so I didn't know why they called it Rosebud too. Yeah, it could always be worse. That's the way I see it. Yeah, in older times, people used to throw people with the plague on boats and burn entire villages. Exactly. Like, we could be living in that area. We could be living in, World War II era. We could be living, in worse times than this. This is not the worst it's ever been. It's the stupidest people I've ever been because, the handling of this COVID situation just, whether you're the person wearing the mask or the person who's trying to get the vaccine out and save your people, let's say the leader of a country, like, get with the program already. This is the recolored version. I got to figure out what parts of these need to be recolored that are part of the background. It's like the majority of it. All right, well, that's that part. Let's do another layer. I think I just use the elliptical tool here. I think it's gonna work. Put some lines so that... You know what? It's probably easier if I just... path it using the pathing tool. Basically making a circle here. And once we get here, we could be sloppy with the circle. As long as we grab everything that it's going to be the same color as this circle. This over there. I should call this the blast area. Because will be background. Want to call everything background. Let's see what this looks like in yellow. Fun times. Well, another good news, Camilio. My wife and daughter just tested positive for COVID. Oh, I'm sorry to hear, Bass. I'm waiting test results, but have no symptoms yet. Jeez, I'm really sorry. Hope everybody's going to be okay, and I hope you don't test positive as well. You have a clue how they got it? Everyone I know got it was clear as day when they caught it. Getting COVID is actually no big deal unless you have specific medical problems. Well, I have a specific medical problem, so that's why I'm worried about it. I want to make sure that I don't get it for that reason alone. I'm already considered to be grouped in with the people who are over the age of 65 or 75 to get the COVID vaccine. So I'm taking it seriously for that reason alone. Okay. The blast radius. I think the red and the yellow would work best. Could also change the color if we want to. No, that's not what I want. Channel mixer? Yeah, so if we made it green, it would look like pretty bad. Taking all the red out of it. And also do use saturation, colorize it. Background 1, background use. BG3. Eventually we're going to combine the background colors, because then we won't need to actually have them on different layers. We could just select that color and it could be on one layer. You know exactly where they got it. Well, that's why they're doing contact tracing, they call it, for that reason alone. So that they can tell people that, hey, you were at a party, let's say, or a gathering with your relatives, and, you know, since you have COVID, that's where you got it because this other person has COVID, but this is what we got so far. Good start. Yellow might be a little too yellow for what we want to use, but then again, we can do whatever color we want here. Let's do blast rays. Start taking some of these areas and blurring them differently. Notice how we're not doing any highlights in the color too at this point. That you save until the end. That's where all the fun starts. Getting a little sloppy here because I'm not zooming in. I don't want these to be contained in some way. There we go. Yeah, I could be doing this with crayons on a sheet of paper. It's or markers or colored pencils. This is basically the same idea, only it's digital. And the digital file is what they'll take to actually print. So there you have it. Fine. We're really making this different. We're going with the wider, the wider lines in the background, the blast lines. Let's make it a little bit wider, this one. This is not connected. Where are we at? We're almost at 3 o'clock, so we should probably do the changeover to gaming, and then I'll finish this up next week. Clearly, if you have questions and you're trying this on your own, bring your questions next time. Be more than happy to answer any questions. Think of older eras of printing when things were all digital and it wasn't just an issue of printing it off good quality paper. I was in Nashville and got to see an old printing press that's still in regular use and just made me appreciate things more. Oh yeah, definitely. You know, back in the day, everything was basically dots. The closer you got into it, you actually saw those dots. What was it? Roy Lichtenstein, the artist? That's what his artwork was. He basically took, well, I don't know if he created them himself, but he basically took pieces of art, like pulp art, like a comic book panel, blew it up, Got to see all the dots in it, and that was his artwork. All right, so she's coming together. I need more blast lines. Yeah, and don't worry about us coloring through here. With Photoshop, we're just going to make different layers so that, you know, once we start coloring here, it'll be on top of the yellow layer, on top of the red. All right. So we'll continue this next week. We got a good start on it. We'll finish up the background next week, and then I'll start on Thor, maybe even the sled. I'm going to see if during the week I could complete these lines here. It's going to be a little tough doing it, but I can pretty certain I can do it. I'm just going to have to like copy this and stretch it. Get rid of this box altogether. I mean, this looks perfect. I just drew it through box, so. All right, here was our original page. Okay, this is what we have now. This was the original comic book cover. Yeah, no cam when I'm working on Photoshop. On purpose. How's it going, creature? Sorry, Camellia, had to take a phone call. Oh boy, sorry to hear that, Brass. Yeah, I remember seeing that a lot with Archie comics my brother had. Yeah. That's even the older Marvel comics from the 80s were like that. Everything that wasn't colored before they got the fancy paper and all that stuff, you could actually see the dots on the page, kind of like a dot matrix printer kind of deal. This is the recoloring job that they did. We're going to do this completely different. We're going to have a red background with yellow. And we could always adjust the type of red. It doesn't have to be pink. And if we wanted to change the yellow to white, we could do that too. We'll see what works best. But this is just part one. We're getting there. What I did want to show everybody was a few of the pages and stuff that I have. That I started working on and I never got around to finishing it. I know I have more completed pages than this. They're just on a CD somewhere. I have all my work stuff on CD, and this computer, this laptop doesn't have a CD drive. They don't come with it anymore. I have to go on my wife's computer to use her CD drive. Yeah, so this is the Conan page I started working on from a Conan comic that all I did was the skim work, but I never pursued it. Conan comics are always in black and white, so they always have these thick ink work hash marks in the background. This is from a David Mack comic book, I think. I don't think David Mack drew this, and started working on this. And you could see that I started working on it back when they had Nokia phones. That's how long ago I started working on it, and I never finished it. I was actually thinking of starting up this page again today, but I was like, nah, I'm not into it. I'm more into the Fantastic Four cover. What else do I have? I have progress. That's not even in progress. My friend got a commission done of Power Girl. I colored that. I don't think it's finished being colored. Why is it opening in here? Yeah, so this is what it looked like. And then if you put the color black lines in there, you get this. So from a friend of mine's, comic book artist Jim Webb did a commission for him. Like I would have to go back in if I had to and highlight the gloves and the cape and her outfit. Obviously, I highlighted the best parts, as you can see. Yeah, I have a lot of original pages as well. Some of these are mine, some of these were friends who were using them for work. So, look. Mark Silvestri, I guess is Cyberforce. I don't know where this came from. The Conan page where I did the skin work. Another Conan page. This is from a Generation X cartoon. Not cartoon, but comic book. This would have been a really simple page to color on. Incredible Hulk. I was thinking of doing this one because look at all the actual characters that are on screen. Like that would have been like taking me hours to color each one. I'm like, this is too much ambitious for first tutorial, so I didn't do it. Power Girl, yeah, you got the power. Yeah, I hope best that your wife is going to pull through and that your daughter and the rest of the family are okay. Hopefully you do not have it. Hang in there, obviously. Did I watch any of the Marvel shows? Not sure if that's the same answer as the DC shows. Marvel movies I watch. The stuff that's on the Disney network, like WandaVision and all that. And I used to watch Shield, but then I realized it was a crappy show, so I stopped watching it. No offense to anybody who likes it, but I did not. That's that page. The page from Nightwing. As you could see here, the artist put like some info on how to color panel 3, which is this one right here. Or no, this one right here was panel 3. White void space surrounding color to focus on figures and alley floor. So all this would be white. Maybe the brickwork would be showing through. You wanted all this to be white. Swamp Thing. That's the page we're coloring now. Okay, so that's basically it. We're going to continue. We're going to color this entire page. And we'll figure out what to do with the background, whether we'll leave it pink. I don't mind the yellow. Next week, we'll probably start by coloring Thor. Once the background's finished, and then we'll start on Rosebud too a little. You could see more of it. Right now, everything looks like blended together just by the color itself. So, here you go.